Well, hello there, dead and lovely listeners, and welcome to this week's installment of your favorite horror movie podcast, featuring your main man here, Uncle Ben, and my main man, who's out on the other end of this call here.
Future Steve!
From the future, Oh.
Yes, I came back this week, just like last week, to fix some sound issues.
Okay, so last week's episode, our Pumpkinhead episode, you all got treated to Future Steve and Future Ben because we done fucked up our audio. And in a similar fashion, you get your future pals again. Okay, so our original Hellraiser episode, we recorded. When did we record it?
November, maybe?
Yeah.
Of last year?
Yeah, of 2016. And we are talking to you now in, what is this, late April 2017?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I went to go back and start editing the episode, and I realized that all the audio for basically the movie review portion was fuck sword. The rest of the intro and stuff was good, but the audio there towards the main kind of meat of the episode was kind of shot. So, in an effort to provide you guys with a quality podcast listening experience worth every dime that you're paying for it, which is to say, no dimes.
Yeah.
We've decided.
Why aren't we charging a dime? I mean,
we should at least do a dime. In a world of like nickel toilets and stuff like this, come on.
Yeah. Nickel toilets.
So we decided to go back and re-record our audio for our movie review portion of this to give you guys a better listening experience. Again, we really need to hire a new audio engineer for this whole experience, but I think it's fun that you guys are along for the ride.
I like the current guy. He's good.
He's got good legs.
He does.
But I think it's kind of fun that you guys are kind of along for the ride with us, you know.
Yeah.
We're kind of like a blind man at an orgy, just feeling our way through things here, and you guys are here with us.
If you listen to like a lot of early podcasts, sometimes they compare it to punk rock because they were just figuring out like what podcasts are and how to do them. And most of your podcasts today are made by people who got a pretty good idea. Well, guess what, folks? That's not us.
That's not us. I was fucking homeschooled. Steve, you were like a Mormon or something for a while.
Yeah. You know what they do when you're a Mormon? They take away your memories and your ability to learn things.
No.
Well, I mean, no, I made that up. But they could, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's well known that some of the primary tenets of Mormon are no coffee, no tea.
None. Get it out of here.
No podcasts.
I don't want to see that shit.
No podcasts.
Podcasts? No, sir.
They didn't talk about it in the BIBLE, so.
No, nor did they talk about it in the BOOK space OF space MORMON.
None of that, so there you go. So you guys are here for the whole learning experience, but I think that's fun. I think that's kind of a cool thing here. So like I said, you're basically going to get in this episode, you have our present day talk that we're having right now from the future. You're going to get a little bit of past life us from around November or so of last year. And then what you're going to hear is a little audio track of something that I put together around December or so of 2016. I put together kind of an industrial sort of revision of the Hellraiser theme, which is one of my favorite horror themes. I really, really, really like it a lot. So I kind of put together sort of an industrial sort of version of that theme song. So I'll play that here. And then after that, that's when you're going to get us from the future to review
like
the movie.
The future even from now.
Holy shit.
That's crazy. And let me tell you, folks, let's go and prove to them we're in the future. What's one of the most recent future things you've done?
All right. One of the most current things that I've done is to start watching The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu.
Boom, bitches.
Now,
What now?
Now I'm fucking verified. This is
And you know
coming
what?
from the future.
I've been listening to Kendrick Lamar's new album, Damn, over and over and over. So,
Yeah, future
How
S
about
my
that?
D.
S, my D.
I've heard that record's really good. Is it?
It is. It's really great. DNA at 1 minute and 50 seconds becomes one of the most like hardcore badass, like just angry growling rap verses that you'll ever hear.
Now
It's
I
really
think
good.
you said DNA. I think you mean DMX, don't you?
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Ho ho ho.
So stay tuned. You're in for a fun time episode here. And now we're going to take you guys back to the past to hear our November 2016. This was really our salad days, wasn't it? This is a good time of our lives.
Yeah. Oh man, can you remember those days back
Man,
in November of 2016?
Those things that happened. Well, and the cool thing is November is around the time of year right when Wyclef Jean gets back.
Yeah. I mean, he's normally gone like through October at least.
Typically returning around November.
I'll be gone through October at least. I'll be gone through October at least. That was the first version, and somebody was like, Wyclef, I think we could shorten this. I don't know.
Let's stretch this out at least till November. It really paints a picture, Wyclef.
Anyway, see you in the future, Rough Riders.
Bye.
Oh,
Hello.
shit. Hold on.
That's the intro that the people deserve right there.
All right, I'm ready now.
Well, welcome everyone to this week's episode of Dead and Lovely, your new favorite horror movie review podcast. Here with your good buddies, Uncle Ben and
Steve, hi. That's my voice today.
Ooh. You know, I think the same way that I'm like, you know, known amongst the internet elite guitar player crowd as Uncle Ben, you need some kind of cool prefix on your name like Swimmer Steve, Scuba Steve.
Scuba Steve.
Sterile Steve, like maybe, I can't have children, I'm sterile. Like that's your bit.
I have advocated that because I have a master's degree, people should have to call me Master. So
Master Steve's pretty
Master
sick.
Steve.
Yeah. Master
There we
Steve,
go.
Uncle Ben and Master Steve. Now, Steve, when you say you're a master, would you say you're a master perhaps of puppets?
That's actually, I mean, I didn't want to get into this, but yeah, my degree is in puppetry.
Yeah? Pulling your strings?
Yeah, I have you ever seen that one puppet movie, Pinocchio?
I've heard a tale of this. Yeah, I've heard a tale of it.
So yeah, I thought if I got a master's degree in puppetry,
Yeah.
I could turn a puppet into a real live human being. And let me tell you, Ben, they don't teach you that spell.
You didn't learn the spell for old not I. That's what Pinocchio actually translates into is not I.
Not I.
Did they teach you that bullshit in school, Steve?
You know, I don't cotton to your fancy book learning. So I'm going to say yes.
What have you been up to this week there, Steven? Out there in the Hollywood Hills of Los Angeles, Hollywood Steve?
Oh, man. Super Hollywood stuff, you know.
Yeah?
Kicking back.
Did you do
with
lunch?
The stars.
Did you do lunch with anybody?
Oh, man. The lunch we did.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, you know, it was as lunch gets, I'll say that.
Now, I've heard tell that out there in Los Angeles and Hollywood and stuff like that they're not even eating food anymore. It's just like basically inhaling flavored vapors, a lot of molecular digestion and things like this. Is that kind of how you roll?
Are you saying you don't vape, bro?
I mean no.
Yeah. Sometimes maybe you want to vape a cheeseburger. Maybe maybe you want to vape chicken soup. You never know.
Campbell's Chicken Vape coming soon.
Yeah. Oh, God. What if it smells? You know how when you open up a can of chicken noodle soup, it has that like dog food smell?
It smells like abject depression. Yes.
Yeah. It actually does drive you further into whatever mess your life is heading towards. So,
you know what would be the best is like, you know how you can get those birthday cards that people send you and you open them up and it has like a little trigger that like plays a song?
Yeah.
What if underneath the lid of every Campbell's soup can, if whenever you opened it, it played a little song that just went, "You're poor."
Aw. At least it was a cute voice.
I mean, if you can't afford Progresso, then fuck you. I'd like to go on record as saying that.
Yeah. And you know what? Put me down on record for that too.
That makes two of us. Man, I've had myself quite a busy week. I've been learning a bunch of tunes for this upcoming show where I'm playing with a yacht rock cover band. So I've learned about 2.5 or 3 hours worth of like Hall & Oates and Kenny Loggins and stuff like that.
Awesome.
It is an absolute blast, dude. It's so fun learning that kind of music.
Winwood?
You know what? They do have some Steve Winwood, but for this particular set that we're playing, we're not doing it. So I'm not learning their entire catalog, but a whole shit ton of it. Dude, that could totally work in there. So I've been learning all that stuff, and then, man, last night I had myself a real grand regal experience. I went and saw my real dad, Steve Vai, playing in Knoxville, Tennessee, which was just, you know, the highlight of my year so far for sure. 2016 can go S a big D, but it did at least have a little bit of Steve Vai in it, which made me enormously happy. He was playing the entire Passion and Warfare record, which is the album that completely changed the course of my life. So to get to hear and see that record start to finish, it was a magic moment, Steve.
What was a young Ben going to become before that album?
Okay, there's only been a few briefly covered life paths that young Ben did. When he was super little Ben, he wanted to be Farmer Ben, because I had we had a field in our backyard that belonged to somebody else, and I'd watch that guy out there on his tractor and stuff, and I was like, hell yeah, that tractor rig is fucking sick. That's totally me. And then after that, is when I started getting into arts. And I wanted to be a comic book artist for a very long time. I got really into drawing superheroes and stuff like that. So I really wanted to do that. And then a little while when I was a teenager, I really thought very much about getting into programming to get into doing video games and stuff. But then I think I realized, hey, you don't know jack shit about computers, and you've never even owned a computer in your entire life.
You know what? I think that was, at that moment, that clarity was just absolutely necessary.
I like to think it was kind of a mature voice of reason in my own mind.
Yeah. You might have gotten a little bit down the path, but you would have run into the problem of not having owned a computer, knowing anything about it.
I'd have sat down to like program the sickest game ever, and I'd been like, wait, bro, you don't have a computer.
So you just draw it on paper.
Yeah, I draw the game.
And then you'd be going back to being an artist. I mean, that's
full circle.
That's regressing.
And so then I started to play that guitar. I heard they give you chicks for free and money for nothing.
Yeah.
And
is that true? I mean,
so far I didn't pay shit for my wife.
Really?
Yeah, nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
I mean, so far it's living up to what I heard in the song. And so then I started playing that guitar, and it got real good to me. And I heard that Steve Vai, Passion Warfare, and I was like, well, I guess that's the end of my life. That's the end game. So here I am.
Rock you like a hurricane.
Man, it's the best. It's the best record, dude. So to get to see that stuff, it was really cool. And one of my guitar students paid for us to go and do the kind of like VIP treatment thing where you get to go and do like a Q&A with Steve and then watch sound check and stuff. It was
that's awesome.
It was hyper cool, man. Hyper cool. So yeah, it was a great time, man. A magical day.
That's cool.
And then whenever I got home, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
I believe on that day, my wife and I got drunk with my wife's twin brother. So we both had a good night, is what I'm saying.
Do you ever get your wife confused with her twin brother, and you start kind of hitting on her twin?
I mean, has he texted you? I mean, yeah, it keeps happening.
Does it ever happen, and then you say it was an accident? Like, oops.
I mean, I don't want to get too into it, but it gets uncomfortable sometimes.
I'll just go with you didn't say no.
Listen, all right?
You know,
take it as you take it,
all
right?
You know? Well, after I got home from that fantastic rock and roll guitar show, I came home, and I had a few beers, and I ate a little bit of noodles.
Uh-huh.
And then I watched a little talkie picture by the name of Hellraiser. Oh my gosh, and now here we are, back from the past. Now we're in the future, which actually...
Oh my God. Guys, things have changed so much. Ben has an eye patch. Oh my God. Donald Trump got elected to a second term already. It was weird.
No
me gusta.
No me. Also, I only speak Spanish now.
That's true. Only speaks Spanish except to say in English he only speaks Spanish now.
That's my form of rebellion.
If you ask him, ¿por qué? He just looks away into the distance and his hair blows on a breeze.
You know how it tends to do that.
No sé.
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Well, man, it's been a while since we recorded that preamble there. It was truly one of the better times of our lives.
Oh my God, salad days! That preamble. Do you remember?
I think if I close my eyes and I have the scent of jasmine in the air, just maybe I can remember those better times.
Yeah, it was like I'd say it was something like 9:50 here in California.
Yeah.
We're at 9:58 now, so guys, it's never going to be 9:50 again. I mean, until the morning. And, it'll keep being 9:50, but never this 9:50. Keep that in mind.
It's true. I'm an older man than I was when we started this podcast.
It's true.
Jesus.
And you'll never be as young as you are right now. YOLO.
So YOLO. End of story. YOLO.
Yeah.
Well, while those were very bright times in our life, now we're going to shift gears and go to a very dark time and talk about a little picture that was based on a true story in 1987 called Hellraiser.
This is the biography of the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin, right?
That's exactly
like he removed the nails from his head and became Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Now, if these are anybody's salad days, I'd like to know what type of salad that would be. It's a dark salad. Yeah, okay. I bet it probably has maybe it's like a quinoa salad. I think it would also have like a topping of severed scraps of face meat, human face meat.
Yeah, when you walk in, and listen, there's some gold on that first recording, and one of them that we have to re-mention is our pitch to Auntie Anne's, Cinnabon. to start a Hellraiser promotion and sell Cinnabites,
which are tiny bite-sized Cinnabons, but they're cute. They're bite-sized. They're made for travel.
Right, but they look like Pinhead and a bloated LL Cool J. Or, like,
Well, that's all. That's all you
whichever.
got to know is you eat enough of those Cenobites, and eventually you start looking like Butterball.
Yeah. That's it.
So this was this the first time that you watched this flick, Steve?
No. I saw it back in the day, like when I was a younger man. I know I didn't see it when it came out, but I did see it probably around the age of 10. So this is a dark ass movie.
Yes, it's dark.
It is. I think now that I did see it at that young of an age, and I'm like, whoa, that is probably why I'm a bit strange.
This is one that I definitely did not see in my younger days, and I'm legitimately very thankful that I didn't see this one. Like, there's so many of those movies that, as I mentioned on previous podcasts, I grew up very, very, very sheltered and stuff, and my fam did their best to try to keep me away from some of the darker corners of existence. But honestly, like, after I went back and I started watching some of those classic, horror flicks, your Elm Streets and your Halloweens and stuff like that, I kind of realized, like, oh, I totally could have watched this as a kid with no long-term detrimental effects.
Yeah.
This is not one of those movies. I really do think that, like, if I would have seen this as a kid, it would have deeply disturbed me. I'm really glad that I didn't see those up until I was probably about, I don't know, I think I saw this for the first time when I was probably like 20, 28, 29, something like that.
Yeah. I know that when I saw it when I was younger, I didn't understand it very well. It was kind of, I don't know, like, it's a very adult horror movie in the sense that it, like, deals with some real adult insanity issues.
When you watched this as a kid, were you like, when I grow up, do I have to put pins in my head? I don't know.
I thought that sex was that Pinhead shows up and rips you apart with chains.
It's not.
Well, okay, listen. My wife says it's not. I don't know that I believe her.
She's doing it wrong.
I think she's doing it wrong. Okay, we've been married almost 7 years now, and we don't have a baby. So,
I mean, okay. How often do you come home and she greets you by fish hooking you?
Rarely.
Okay, need I say more?
Yeah, all right. That's upsetting. It's upsetting that, you know what? Okay, we're going to have the talk.
The Chatterer taught me everything I know about love and physical affection. This movie, though, really, like, again, especially compared to other ones from that era, that kind of mid-late 80s sort of era, which, again, it's like, by this time we're knee-deep in Friday the 13th and Elm Streets and stuff like that. This one is legitimately still fucked up. Like, you go and you watch this now, even in the year 2017 or 2016 when this was originally recorded. And it still holds up as being legitimately fucked up in ways that not really any horror movie goes towards. Like, I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm like, there's honestly a lot of things that you could compare Halloween to. There's a lot of things that you could compare Friday the 13th to. Any of those movies. It's like, it's a slasher, whatever.
I was going to ask you that.
There's
what
nothing you
genre
can compare
is
this to. Yeah, like, there's really nothing that you can compare Hellraiser to.
At best, you could call it a monster movie, but it's not that.
No.
It's not a monster movie. I mean, as we'll get into it, and as we did in the past, the Cenobites are neither the heroes or the villains in this movie.
I think probably, now that I'm thinking about it, probably about the closest cousin that I can think of to tonally what this movie is about and the subjects that it deals with and stuff. I think about the closest thing I can think about is maybe like Takashi Miike's Ichi the Killer, because it's very much about sadism and masochism.
This is the second week in a row you've mentioned Ichi the Killer.
It's a true story. I think that's about the closest thing.
I don't know if you mentioned that on Pumpkinhead or a future episode.
Oh shit, you might be right. See, like, our timeline it's getting like J.J. Abrams as fuck.
Yeah. I think we might start the Age of Apocalypse comic books. Like, we talked about how much we liked them, but it turns out that
we're the ones that
Jim
started
Lee and all the X-Men writers and artists at that time were just like, they were transported to the future. They heard our podcast, and then they went back in time using Dark Beast Machine, and Sugar Man followed them, of course.
Sugar Man, dude. Maybe what happens is, like, maybe one day we just, on totally a wild hair, we decide to review the X-Men Apocalypse movie, and then whenever I go and I save the file, I actually save the file as, like, what would that be? Like 1996? And it goes back in time, and it gives, like, all the Marvel dudes back then the idea to create the Age of Apocalypse.
And we take Rob Liefeld aside, and we're like, and listen, Deadpool, you need to rip off Slade Wilson in the DC universe and first off, give him a real name. Yeah. And second off, make him a funny character. And he'll be like, funny character. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give him like 1 million pouches.
Wait.
And then we'll be like,
Slade Wilson?
That's Deathstroke.
His name is Slade Wilson?
His name is Slade Wilson, yeah.
See, I was never a DC guy. What the fuck? That's so stupid. Really?
It's a stupid name, yeah, but he's the original character, and he's a cool character. I like him.
He is. He's not Deadpool cool, but...
No. I mean, who is?
That's fucking funny. I did not know that was just that blatant of a pull. That's funny.
Okay. So we should get into talking about who made the movie, etc. This is a Clive Barker movie.
Yep.
Clive Barker, I was a big fan of his novels as a child. As
you had his picture books, his pop-up books, and all this.
Well, okay. I saw this movie in 1990, and I believe I read The Thief of Always, which is his sort of children's book, in 91 or 92. And then I moved on to his like more serious stuff, and it's
serious, yes.
Yeah, much darker. But it like gave me the understanding of how creative horror can be, because he's a real creative storyteller in the horror genre. And as we were just saying, this sort of defies genre. So it's a big deal.
Have you read The Hellbound Heart, the story that this was based on?
I have not. I never really read any of his short stories or novellas. I read the big ones. I read, highly recommend the Great and Secret Show series. Really good. Weave World has one of the most disturbing scenes I've ever read in my life.
Dying.
That involves a dead nun who has her eyes and mouth sewn shut, giving birth to monstrous creatures.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds unsavory. Highly unsavory.
Yeah. But if you like reading horror and you want to read something different, Clive Barker's the way to go.
Wow. So he wrote this. Who directed this flick? Do you know?
It was Clive Barker.
Oh, so he directed it too.
Yeah, his first directing job. And he has said in interviews that he's really thankful to the talented people around him who had patience with him, as he was a novelist who wrote this screenplay and now is directing a movie. I think he did a great job, but I do guarantee that he smartly probably listened to the people around him who were more experienced.
I really, really, really fucking love this movie, and
me too.
Again, it's one of the most original, especially for the time period. But there's still not really been anything after it, like I said, that's been similar in tone and stuff. I really, really, really dig this movie. So why don't you kick us off there as far as where we start off in this flick?
Yeah, this movie starts with some pretty nondescript opening credits that are really long.
Accompanied by that awesome Hellraiser theme by...
Great theme.
Was it Christopher
Great
somebody?
Theme. Oh, I didn't write that down.
I didn't either. I should have done
Let's
that.
make it up. Christopher Robin.
Christopher
he grew up
Robin.
When Pooh died, his belief in a shiny, happy world died. And he was like, I'm gonna compose the Hellraiser score.
Because it'd be so easy to like write this as just a typical mean, spooky, scary sort of horror movie theme with lots of shrieking dissonance and stuff like this. But it's really this like beautiful, towering, almost romantic sounding at certain points. It suits the movie perfectly. I really love it.
I would say that this movie is a romance. Like
yeah, in a weird way it is.
It's a twisted romance, but it's a romance. Anyway, our opening image is the box. This is like along with Pinhead, the iconic image of the Hellraiser series is this puzzle box that opens the gates or some sort of wound in the universe that allows the Cenobites to get through into our world.
Yes, indeed. And basically we get Frank, and he's buying the box off of some guy, it looks like in some kind of foreign land, and he slides the money across the table, and he's got dirty fucking fingernails. Ugh.
And he says, now before you take this, no, there are 3 rules. Do not feed it after midnight. Don't get it wet. And don't make a sequel of that movie.
I would love it in some kind of crossover if it really was like the same dude in this.
Yeah, that would be great. And he was also the guy in The Golden Child.
Yeah. And so Frank gets the box, and it shows him doing some kind of ceremony with it. And he opens it up, and we see this blue light coming through these slats in the walls and stuff. And then these hooks sort of fly out from nowhere and tear his flesh. He's having a good time with that thing.
Yeah, I believe I told you via text that listen, our podcast checks haven't come through yet, but I'm told by my accounting firm that I'm told Bill Gates is just weeping.
He's a fan. He's a fan of the show. He's also very jealous.
Yeah, the amount of money coming in. I'm going to buy a huge mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and I'm just going to have Clive Barker come in and design a chains and body parts room.
I'm totally behind that.
Off in the corner, I'm going to have a toilet, and that's going to be the guest bathroom. And then as you're walking towards it in the hallway, it starts playing the Misfits song. Is it Skulls where he says, "You don't go in my bathroom with me"?
I don't think he says that in Skulls.
What is that?
Which one is
Damn
that?
It. I'm killing myself here. I listen to the Misfits all the time. I can't remember the name of that song.
Oh God.
Anyway, so yeah, chains, gore.
There's this like spinning column. Like that's one of my favorite things is that spinning column in the weird Cenobite room that just has like meat and just fucking shit all over it. Ugh.
Now I want to tell you that one of our many interns handed me a piece of paper that says that the score to Hellraiser was composed by Christopher Young. So
we were pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same. And so we see the meat column and stuff, and we see like the female Cenobite, which that's what she's referred to in the credits, right? It's female Cenobite.
That's her name. What?
Ugh.
Come on, guys. Couldn't have called her like gross throat or something like
in
anything,
the original
anything.
In the original, apparently she was titled Deep Throat, but that was thought to be too vulgar.
Yeah, because they were like, listen, guys, let's stop bringing up Watergate.
Yeah.
Put
it to rest already.
Jeez.
And so we see this female Cenobite. She's got like her throat is kind of vivisected open, and it very much reminds you of how much like whenever you dissect a frog in homeschool on the kitchen table with your mom, like I did. One of the more normal experiences of my life, I would say, as a young homeschooled person, is dissecting a frog on the kitchen table, and then having like tacos that night on the same table. Very normal.
Right. And then taking your mom to prom.
Yeah, exactly, as you do. And so she's we see kind of the Cenobites, and there's meat and stuff just scattered out everywhere, and we see some hands kind of scrambling through some various meat pieces and assembling sort of a meat face.
Yeah. And okay.
Wouldn't it be great if that was like some early merchandising for this movie, is like an assemble it yourself face kit for like kids? It's like 32 piece face kit.
What if they had done a cross promotion again with Cinnabon, where you get a kids pack of Cinnabites,
Yeah.
and inside there's a puzzle that is just pieces of face.
Oh, like each one you're like, I got an ear.
Oh man, I think this is lips.
Oh, not another nose again.
Oh my gosh. Okay, listen, this just in. Our interns are all over this. And listen, I want to thank you guys. All right, look, Harvard University, they called us and they begged us, like, please take some of our communications majors. They need your help.
Yeah. They have that weird rhythm in the way they talk. It's very strange.
Yeah. These Harvard kids, you know. Anyway, the Misfits song that we were talking about is Horror Business.
Should have known. Good for those interns. I'm glad they're on the job. They've really earned that $1.50 an hour they're making.
Yes. Wait, hold on. No. Okay, listen. All right, Bill Gates' son, whatever your name is. Gosh.
Bill Gates
All
Jr.,
right,
fuck off.
He gets his haircut the same place as his dad.
No way.
Fantastic Sam's.
I'll tell you, I haven't seen Sam's work. Not fantastic. It's false advertising.
Oh my gosh. They used to have a guy who would stand outside when you would walk outside, like after you got your hair cut, and he'd be like, hey, fantastic.
He was paid off, man.
Yeah.
And so then we see Larry and Julia at the door of this big old house. It looks musty. It's a musty looking place, and they show up at Larry's brother Frank's old house is where they are.
And we can tell already their marriage is great.
That's wonderful.
And,
model.
Well, I mean, it's certainly not going to be a point of contention in this movie, for sure.
No, not at all.
There's the cool, like, they walk into the one room where it's like sacrilegious religious. Like, there's just religious shit all over the place, but it's like wrapped in Christmas lights and stuff. It's an interesting room.
There's all kinds of statues of Mary and crucifixes and all sorts of things all throughout Frank's house. And that's just kind of a theme that continues on through the entire movie, really. It keeps showing us stuff like that through the whole thing. And Frank is like, Kirsty, let's keep saying Kirsty will love it.
Yeah, and Kirsty is his daughter, who kind of looks like Natalie Portman.
She's a little Portman-esque a little bit. I think she's an attractive lass. Now, here's a question. So, Julia, which is Larry's new wife there.
Claire Higgins, who I think delivers the best performance in this movie by far.
I would concur with that. She's British sounding. I don't know where this movie takes place. No clue.
I don't either. I'm pretty sure it's America. Because the few other people that they talk to have American accents. And it's a kind of a claustrophobic movie as far as characters go. There's not a lot of
there's like 5 people.
Other characters.
But apparently, like, the guy that played Brother Frank, I guess, was another British actor, and then they dubbed his lines, which is why Frank has the really weird way of talking to match the words.
I'm so glad you told me that. Every time I've watched this movie, I've always been like, that is not his voice. There's no way.
It is not his voice. And it doesn't make sense, though, because they didn't dub Julia. They just let her be British.
Yeah, but you can't because she's but Frank's in the movie the whole time too.
Yeah,
she's the best part of the movie. You dub her, you fuck up the movie. I'm saying she's the best actor in the movie. She's not the best part of the movie. The insane horror creativity from Clive Barker is the best part of the movie.
Definitely. So Frank's old house that they moved into here is really really nasty and filthy and stuff. And there's like a mattress on the floor. And
There's maggots.
Julia finds some like dirty pictures of Frank engaged in various lewd sexual acts.
Man, that Frank
Liked to bone.
I'll tell you this, real libertine, that guy. A rake. All right? And I would call him that in Trafalgar Square. All right?
And
then we'd have a duel. A wig duel.
They get a call from Kirsty, and she says she's rented a room and stuff, but she wants to come over and check out the place and all that jazz. And then we have like Julie, and she finds that picture of, it's like Frank boning some lady in a Japanese-looking mask.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, he was into some interesting stuff.
Not judging. Not judging.
No, not judging. And that's the basis of this movie, and the basis of, I think, Clive Barker's creativities is his extreme interest in S&M, and as Pinhead says, like, exploring the limits of experience. Yeah. Like, not like giving up on ideas of good and bad, and just
boning a lady in a Japanese mask.
Yeah, why not? Well,
that's the outer limits right there, dude.
That's it. Like, it was a weird mask. So
regular sex, Japanese mask sex. Different story.
I like to think that this is how it elevated for him. Is he was like, I have sex with a lot of ladies, and he was like, I'm bored with that. And he was like, Japanese mask, and he was like, I'm bored with that. Summon demons from another dimension.
I like to think of that too in the Frank voice, where he's like, maybe we'll put on a Japanese mask, maybe we'll summon demons. God. And I didn't really understand it, because Julie like cuts out the picture of him in that photo. I don't really understand why. Did she just not want to see a picture of him having sex with some other lady, or did she just want the picture of him? I don't know.
Yeah, I think she just wanted the picture of him.
And
because as we find out, they were lovers.
And then we get the mattress delivery guys, which this is a cool thing. So Doug Bradley that plays Pinhead.
Yeah.
Whenever he got the part playing in the movie, he was given the he was given the choice of either playing Pinhead or playing one of the mattress delivery guys.
He made the wrong choice.
He made the wrong choice, because these guys are fucking legendary. It's funny because like he actually debated about taking the mattress delivery guy choice, because he didn't want his like first big acting role to be of him wearing a costume and special effects makeup and stuff, because he didn't think people would recognize him.
Yeah, I understand. I heard that about King Kong in the first movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He wanted, like, he was like, look, okay, like, I want to play myself. And they were like, no, put on the gorilla suit. And he was like, but I'm just a giant man.
These people should have relied on their instincts. So Kirsty arrives, and the mover guy's like, oh, she's fucking hot. And says something about looks like her mother, and Larry's like, her mother's dead. Which is okay.
Yeah, these movers are some interesting dudes.
They rule.
At one point, they demand a beer.
They do.
And also, why the fuck is Larry helping them? You don't hire movers to help them move shit in.
Also, it's just a fucking mattress.
So they move your shit in.
Like, mattresses don't weigh that much.
Yes, my wife and I have a king-size memory foam mattress. It is heavy. It's real heavy. Whenever we've moved, the two of us have moved it without problem.
And here's a true fact for you guys, because this is an audio format. You guys don't know it, but Steve is actually 3.5 feet tall, and so is his wife.
Yeah. We're tiny people.
Yeah, they don't need no mattress mover.
We don't. And these people are of average height. And let me tell you, they're struggling to get past the first 2 stairs on the staircase.
They're having a bad time with it.
Yeah, but I did, while watching this, come up with a terrible curse to put on someone. Oh. And it's worse than thinner.
Ooh.
If someone does you some dirt, you give them the evil eye stare, and you say, "I wish an immovable mattress upon you."
Oh, what are they going to do then?
They're not, I don't know. I mean, you're going to have a mattress stuck at the bottom of your staircase, that's for sure.
And so that's when, let's see, they're trying to be the mattress and stuff, and that's when Julia starts having that flashback about boning Frank.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice until like probably the second or third time that I watched the movie, but Frank and Julia are boning on what looks like the wedding dress. Like
Yes.
they boned the day of the wedding, I suppose, of her and Larry's wedding.
Yeah. So I guess he did have some progress between like just regular sex. He was like, I'd also like to have sex with a lady on her wedding dress, then Asian mask, then
the
demons, and then I'm going to try missionary, guys. I don't know what it's like.
Then I'll try leaving the lights on. Freaky.
Oh.
Real freaky naughty. And he says like creepy shit about like, oh, may I kiss the bride? And then he like cuts her fucking drawers off with a knife. And doesn't he have like a Tasmanian devil tattoo or something fucking stupid?
No, okay. Here's the thing. I didn't notice this until like just recently. I was just sort of skimming back through it to remember just the scenes. The tattoo he has is a phoenix tattoo.
Oh.
Which you'll know best from X-Men. Yes.
Oh, again, Days of Future Past, fucking Age of Apocalypse coming up.
Yeah, we're talking about how Frank is imbued with the Phoenix Force.
Yes.
So
I noticed
but
that.
But also, I don't know if you know this. This is a little more like modern, but also in the Harry Potter books, Phoenixes, they legendarily die and then turn into ash, and then are reborn.
They come back. They have a tendency to be coming back in.
Coming back in.
Frank style.
The German word for resurrection.
Coming back in.
They're coming back in.
And so while she's reminiscing about boning Frank, that's when Larry is helping the mattress guys, and he hits his hand on like a nail that's sticking out of the wall. And he bleeds out like 10 gallons of goo blood. It's fucking gross.
He, much like Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street, is just pulsing with blood.
He's an aqueous creature, full of liquid.
Yeah. So, this is interesting, though, because the way that it happens is it's showing the flashback of them having sex. And as they come to the point of ejaculation, he rips his hand on the nail and starts spurting blood. His blood then hits the floor in Frank's room and starts this reanimation sequence, which is fucking awesome.
It's so cool, man. It's also very reminiscent of kind of a Telltale Heart, Edgar Allan Poe kind of thing.
Yeah, yes, it is, because there's a heart below the floorboards, which I want to talk about because I think it looks very good. I love the effect.
Shit, yeah.
It's just a plastic bag with fake blood in it. But that's the thing about good special effects, is they don't have to be complicated to be good.
No.
Like, it just has to be done well. It has to be shot well, and it is. It's shot very well. And so anyway, what I'm saying is that we see the ejaculation in the past, and then his blood mixes with the womb of the home and rebirths his brother.
Damn. And it's so cool, that scene where we see Frank kind of being reborn and stuff and regenerating. It kind of starts with like just sort of these nasty, gross sort of pieces of human anatomy sort of forming together and stuff. It's totally the kind of thing that you can tell they filmed some stuff and then showed it to us in reverse. It's almost like they filmed stuff that was melting and then showed it in reverse, so it looks like it's coming together.
Yeah.
I really, really love that sequence. I remember the first time I watched this. This is when I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm totally fucking back in this movie. This is awesome. It's really cool. And there's just so much goop all over him. He's covered in Cinnabon icing is what it is.
That is actually one of the oldest horror movie effect techniques. In the Edison Company 1910 Frankenstein, the sequence in which the Frankenstein creates the creature they made this sort of like paper mache or wax dummy, and they burned it and shot it and then showed it in reverse, so it looked like it was coming together. So like it again, what I'm saying is like to make good special effects, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be like overly much.
It has to be creative.
You just have to be creative, yeah.
And you gotta have a guy behind the camera knowing how to shoot it so it doesn't give the trick away.
Yeah.
It's a lot like close-up magic in a lot of ways, where it's like you have to know how to conceal everything.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because listen, I'm gonna go ahead and pitch. We scrap everything we've done, and we turn this into a close-up magic podcast.
Holy shit! And you'll do the tricks, and I'll be like, wow, it vanished, wowie.
Yeah. And you'll know that because I'll tell you through the microphone here in Los Angeles.
You'll be like, and the coin is gone.
I'll be like, now what was your card? And you'll say 7 of diamonds. And I'll be like, that's the card I pulled out. And you'll be like, whoa. And it'll be like the David Blaine specials where the actor that they got to, like Samuel L. Jackson or whatever, they got to be in David Blaine's presence. He shows the trick, and then David Blaine just blankly stares at them like intensely for 15 minutes, and the camera just zooms in on their face.
Oh man!
And it's like, wow,
wow,
my mind is blown, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to start that podcast. That'll be.
Let's start it right now. Welcome back to Close Up Magic Pod. Today we're talking Chris Angel, Mind Freak or Mind Fuck.
Oh man. Okay, so the next thing that we have in the movie there is where we see Larry and Julia having a big dinner party at the house, and Kirsty is there, and she's there watching. Who I only discovered after watching the movie like 100 times is Steve, who's kind of becomes her boyfriend over the course of the movie, I guess.
Good name, bro.
Steve is a sick name. And basically, like, I don't know, like, Steve is not hiding his intentions about what he wants to do to her in front of her own dad. Like, he's totally getting her drunk, and she's like, I won't be able to stand up. And he goes, so lie down.
He pulls the trick I pulled to get my wife, and I know my mom was swayed by this as well.
Many a classic romance starts with this right here.
He took his cigarette and he flipped it around so the lid was in his mouth.
I mean, that's...
No, hold on. Let's just wait, because a lot of women right now are going to have trouble paying attention to what's happening after this, and gay guys. And, you know, hey, mate, do you know what? A lot of straight guys probably will be turned by this.
Hey, you know what they say? It's kind of like spaghetti. Even spaghetti's straight till you put a little heat on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Heat from a lit cigarette in your mouth. Everybody's smoking at this dinner. I would be so fucking pissed. Here in the year 2017, if I went to somebody's dinner party and it was just a bunch of people like sitting around a fucking table smoking indoors, I'd be like, yeah, guys, I'm leaving. This is fucking disgusting.
Unless it was meth.
Oh, yeah, that's a horse of a different color.
Well, yeah, then it'd be like, hey, if I can smell it, let me inhale it.
And so let's see what happens after that. That's where Julia's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to bed."
She's tired. She's gonna go upstairs. She's gonna go to bed, and she goes up to Frank's room, and she meets gross old Frank.
Skinless Frank. Old skinless Frank. We had
Frank.
Shoeless Joe Jackson. Skinless Frank.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
I'd actually like to retract that. I would really like it if instead of that being a baseball name, I'd love it if that was like a blues name. Like if there was, there's like Blind Willie Johnson and Howlin' Wolf and Skinless Frank.
I got the skinless blues. It hurts like shit to play guitar.
And really considering what his like speaking voice sounded like, he probably has a pretty good blues voice.
Yeah, that's true.
I can start to feel my nerves again. Do 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 do.
Actually, that's leaning a little metal. I can start to feel my nerves again. We just got to get like some sick double bass behind it. And
yeah. And he grabs Julie and he's like, "Don't look at me." and he reveals that it's him, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta help me." And Kirsty hears some commotion going on there, and she goes up, but doesn't Julia like kind of send her back? She's like, "Oh, don't come in here," or whatever.
Yeah. And
But Frank wants
Kirsty's,
blood.
Yeah, he's vampiring it up.
Yeah, he's like, the blood has helped me regenerate to the point where I am, so I need more juice.
Got to get the blood. So he basically is like, bring me blood, and she's like, I guess I will.
You know what would have been the best, dude, is if she would have brought back to Frank like a late 80s, early 90s Ric Flair. Because that guy was a free bleeding machine.
And Frank just like puts his fingers right up to the hairline. Yeah. And as he's just getting halfway there, his body starts to regenerate. And Flair just goes, woo, and walks out.
What would have happened then is like Flair would have like overjuiced Frank, and Frank would have like exploded from absorbing too much blood.
Yeah, and then Flair would have walked out with Julia, and Julia would have been like, I guess I'm with this guy now.
He's styling and profiling. That's definitely the guy that Frank needed to get back to his full powers. He had to pump the brakes on that blood machine, but Flair would have done the job.
Yeah. Is this okay? So then they had the dream sequence, right?
Where that's where we see a little scene where we see Steve and Kirsty, and they're out on a date, and they walk by a bum, and this is where Kirsty's kind of complaining about what a bitch Julie is. That's basically it.
Yeah, and that bum will come back a couple of times,
two, three times.
Yeah. So Kirsty has some problems with Julie, and I'm gonna go ahead and say I get it. Like, Julia is obviously not happy with her husband, and it would seem that Larry, though he is dumb and he makes the worst sort of effort, like he's not really good at communicating with his wife, he's making an effort and she's not.
Pretty much so.
Yeah, so you can see why a daughter would then take her dad's side.
And so then, we get that really cool dream sequence of Kirsty's where she's in just this random room, and that room never comes back. That's something that I think is really interesting. Is like, it's not like that's a room that we see the Cenobites inhabiting or anything like that. She's just in some weird room, and there's like the sound of a baby crying, and there's feathers flying I think because of the feathers flying everywhere, she was actually in a 1980s Ridley Scott studio.
Okay, yeah.
She's on the set of Legend.
Sense. Yeah. She better be careful, though, because Tim Curry has those horns. So
Mother Night.
Watch out.
And there's like a body in the room under a sheet, and like it's under a white sheet, and this blood starts spreading all over it. It's really awesome. It's a really cool scene.
It's a cool scene, yeah. It's a very, like, surreal. And, I mean, maybe it plays into everything that happens after, but it would have a very poetic meaning. It's hard to associate exactly what goes on in the stream with everything that then happens in the future, but Kirsty gets something out of it, and that is actually kind of the nature of dreams, is that they mean something more to the person who has them than anyone else.
Right.
So I'm not sure there's a lot of like symbolism that plays into the future, though I may be wrong on that. But it definitely like it piques her like interest. She starts to think there might be something going on.
Yeah, something's up. And then that's when we get the scene of Julia going to meet a guy at a bar just to bring home to Frank just to fucking get killed. And she seems kind of like nervous about it and stuff. She's not like quite a bloodthirsty bitch at this point. She seems a little kind of like
Well, yeah, but she does suit up in her best armor. She puts on the helmetest hairdo and the shoulder pads from the late 80s.
Hell yeah.
She looks like maybe a free safety. She's ready to square up and take out a guy 15 yards downfield. Like she also has that. That's the thing. That first off, I like the character of Julie. She's very complicated. Julia is like, she's the driving force, really, it seems to me, for the whole story.
Yeah.
But Claire Higgins really, like, even though it's obvious she's nervous, she's also intense. Like, she's so intense in this scene. Like, it's like she's like, I have this goal, which is to go find a man, bring him home so he can be murdered.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to do it. I'm nervous about it, but I'm going to fucking do it.
And she's kind of freaky like that, so she's probably pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, we in the next few scenes we'll learn, like, she is
Frank's
fucking
equal.
insane. Like, yeah, that's exactly what she wasn't like seduced by Frank.
No.
She saw a kindred spirit in Frank.
Yeah.
And that spirit is, I don't care about humanity, I don't care about other people's feelings, I care about my own pleasure, and I care about what I get.
Which they explore more in the sequel to this, too, in Hellraiser 2.
Yeah.
Which I very much enjoy and I want to cover on the show. And she picks up this British guy at a bar.
British.
And she brings him home, and they go up to Frank's room, and he's like, says something about, I expected there to be a bed. And she's like, we don't need a bed, or something like this. And the dude undresses, and he's wearing the classic high socks and tidy whities. Just looks like a big pile of shit.
Hey, man, it's a good look. It's like T-shirt and jeans.
Oh,
high black socks, tidy whities, maybe a stained white undershirt,
hairy legs,
and just kind of look like, will you be my mommy? Like that. That's like the look he has on his face. Like, hey, I hope you'll be nice to me.
The ladies love it.
The ladies love it.
And Frank loves it too because he hits him with a hammer and fucking. Oh no, she hits him with the hammer. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And
yes.
The shot's
It's
really sick. It
badass.
shows his chin, his teeth are all busted up and stuff.
Yeah.
And Frank jumps on him and is fucking sucking him, getting that blood out of there.
But he's like, don't look at me.
Don't look at me.
He's got this issue where it's like, listen, I want you to constantly be in my presence doing stuff for me, but don't look at me.
Don't look at me. And so Julia goes in the bathroom. She washes blood off and stuff like this. And she comes back, and the corpse is like a fucking California raisin.
Yeah. Well, and that face washing scene, like she does a lot as an actress to like show us what she's going through. And you see this like her looking in the mirror at the blood on her face and just sort of going through this like, I guess what you would go through if you killed someone and found out you didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
She just sort of like, she looks in the mirror like, I guess I should be ashamed.
This is
and
me
then she's
now,
like,
I guess.
Well, I don't. It's like I don't really feel ashamed. And then she's kind of like, there's almost a half smile before it cuts away. Like she's kind of just like, okay.
It's badass.
Like, I'm fine with it.
It is cool because, I mean, it's just like we were saying. She's fucked up as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. She's she is a driving force in this movie for sure.
She goes back to Frank, who's just like a meat skeleton at this point, and he says, "Come to daddy."
He says, "Come to daddy." Okay, listen. All right, now I know. Listen, Aphex Twin, we're fellow time travelers.
Correct.
We see you all the time at the time traveler airport.
In the place.
Yes, they have TSA there, and no, you can't take on a 4-inch knife.
No.
You can take a 3.5-inch though, so it's a little better.
Sure.
Anyway, so we see him all the time, and I'll tell you this. I forgot what I was talking about.
Aphex Twin's got that "Come to Daddy" jam.
Yeah. But yeah, Aphex Twin, like, obviously gets that from this, right? Like, because it's a, like, really dark moment.
Yeah.
He's a skeleton, like, just with loose sort of meat and blood everywhere. And
That's kind of his signature line, I guess, through the movie.
"Come to daddy," yeah. He says that again later. And it makes a little more sense then.
And so Larry,
Yeah, he has Larry's skin on then.
Larry comes home and Julia like hides the body and stuff and locks herself up in the bathroom and like Larry's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she's like, "Bring me brandy. I'm sick." I guess that's what you do when you're British. You're like, "I'm sick, therefore brandy."
Yeah, you have brandy, and then you have a digestive, and then
a nice biscuit, a Pimm's.
Yeah, maybe a Pimm's, right?
And so Julia sees Frank, and he's like, maybe one or two more will complete me. And he explains that they need to get away before the Cenobites figure out that he slipped by them. So you're like, oh, okay. So that scene at the first of the movie where they're assembling this meat face there, that's them figuring out, oh shit, this isn't Frank's meat face. He's duped us and gotten away from them somehow.
Yeah, and we should note that the writer of Jerry Maguire has said a number of times that he meant in the "you complete me" scene,
yes,
to imply that you complete me, unlike Frank, who needed all those dead bodies to be completed. And that's why Renee Zellweger says shut up. And then there's like a pause because she said, Hellraiser's my favorite movie. And then she says, you had me at Hellraiser. And then they cut it and made it Hello.
Oh.
Yeah.
God, that makes sense.
Yeah. So.
And then we cut to the pet store where Kirsty works at.
Yeah. And
that bum from earlier is there, right?
Yeah, and he shows up, and he's like, handful of crickets. Sounds delish. And
he's getting his protein snack on.
He's wearing those hobo gloves that, like, when I was little in the 80s, they were also, like, punk rocker gloves. Like, the gloves that, for some reason, are cut off at the knuckles.
Yes.
And I guess I get it if it's a fashion statement, but if you're a bum living on the street, wouldn't you rather just have the rest of your fingers also covered?
I should think that you would want that, yeah. Unless you were working a smartphone. Maybe he's a time traveler too, like us, and he needed his fingers free to work his smart device.
Oh, and he's from not as far in the future as we are, so they still have smartphones instead of those implants.
Exactly, like we have in the future right now.
Yeah, right.
So he eats a handful of crickets, and then she kind of shoos him out, and she's like, you can't be in here eating crickets off your bum gloves.
Now, this is the moment that I kind of wish that the character, the bum, was played by John C. Reilly, and he was incredulous as to why he had to leave. Like, I wish when she came up, he was like, what do you mean?
What's going on?
I'm just having some crickets. Listen, I'm going to pay you.
And we get another scene of like Julia leading another guy in to get killed by Frank. And then this is where Frank sort of explains to her about the box that we've seen at the first of the movie. And he says, like, there's some cool dialogue here I had to transcribe because it's awesome. But he says, it opens the door to the pleasures of heaven or hell. I didn't care which. I got an experience beyond the limits. Pain and pleasure, indivisible. Individual.
And individual.
With liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all. Amen.
And then we, Julia's like, oh, we'll get away. They'll never find us.
Yeah. Don't worry. Listen, they're not going to be looking for you. They're going to be looking for a meat puppet. So, like, by the time we get you skin, we're out of here.
Yeah. I don't know these guys, but I'm an expert on this stuff. We're going to get away from them.
Yeah. We'll be all right.
And so then we have, like, Julia and Larry are, like, watching boxing or something like this on TV.
Yeah, and this is a cool moment because Julia seems disinterested in the boxing.
Yeah.
And Larry says, like, something like, is it too brutal for you? And she says, like, I've seen worse. It's a cool moment where it's just like, no, we've seen her kill people with a hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're going to kill people, a hammer is a brutal way to go.
It's a hell of a way to go about the job. There's much easier ways to do it.
Yeah, but they're upstairs. Frank is having some troubles because, his skin His skin hasn't grown, but his nerves have.
He's having a spot of bother.
Yeah, so like everything he touches hurts him, and so he's moaning, and there's also like a thunderstorm, and Larry hears a noise upstairs, and Julia can't seem to come up with any plausible way of getting him to not go upstairs, but she basically is like, I'm scared of thunder, etc. She decides to try to seduce him, basically. And they go upstairs and they go into the room where Frank normally is, and they don't see him, and so she like seduces him into the bedroom, and as they're sort of doing their tepid kissing on the bed, the closet door opens and out comes Frank, skinless still but wearing clothes, and he has a knife, and
he's wearing clothes because modesty.
Yeah, well, he's like, hey, okay, I don't want everybody seeing my nipples. He's got to think about his nipples.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have nipples, you don't have skin. And he's like, yeah, but I know where they're supposed to be.
He's a reasonable man.
Yeah. But he comes out with a knife, and Julia, she's been reacting to Larry, like, trying to keep his attention on her, but now she's reacting to Frank walking towards Larry with the knife, and Frank has already said that he could kill Larry, and that would give him enough blood.
Yeah.
And she's saying, no, I couldn't bear it. Like,
I can't bear it. No.
And this is interesting because we know she doesn't have a problem with killing.
No.
Or
doing the nasty.
Maybe it is that she does feel some sort of guilt that she obviously dated Larry, and like they came to a point where they were like, we're happy, or maybe I don't know why people get married. My wife and I got married because we are best friends and we wanted to be around each other all the time.
Oh.
But people get married for other reasons, like that's what people do. You get married. So maybe that was it. But it seemed like she genuinely liked Larry in that first flashback. But
kind of.
that she was
her zest for life seems to be of a different flavor than Larry's. Perhaps he seems to to live a different lifestyle than Julia would like. Their relationship is somewhat of a question mark for me.
Yeah, it is a weird thing. But she obviously, I don't know, she's trying to protect him in some way. Or maybe she just doesn't want a guy to die on top of her. I don't know.
Might be that.
But Frank instead pulls out a rat. And we've seen in his room.
In his boudoir.
In his boudoir. He likes to keep some crucified rats, just for...
Hang them on some nails for safekeeping, for easy access.
Yeah. And people come over, they see bare walls and they're like, oh, what a boring person. But, they see crucified rats and they're like, okay, what is this?
He wants that place to have that good lived-in look.
The lived-in look of crucified rats.
Dude, you know what they should do? The same way they do those extreme home makeover shows, they should do like a Clive Barker extreme home makeover where there's some people that are like, well, we have a budget of $5,000 to redo our house, and Clive Barker is the one that gets to redo it, and he's like, well, you can get nails for maybe a penny each, and rats are free if you can catch them, so we can nail some rats to the walls. And
rats are free if you can catch them. and then he winks at them.
And actually, he's saying
I'm
that
really
with
good at catching them.
I wish I could do his voice because he has the most. It sounds like two slabs of concrete being rubbed up against each other. He kind of sounds like the rock monster from the Neverending Story. He has the most gravelly voice of all time. He's like, we could make a meat pole for about $15 and put it on a Lazy Susan, which you could spin.
Yeah, and that would be fun. Or, you know what? How about I do this? I go to some ancient like Eastern Bazaar. I walk around until I find a table where they're only selling one thing. I give them $5,000 for that. We bring it back here. We open that bitch up, find out what happens.
Maybe it's like that. And so Frank guts a rat at the base of the bed while Steve and Julia are getting their bone on. Of course, Larry being completely unaware of all this going on. Very fucking gross scene.
Yeah, and Julia, I guess, to be fair, watching someone disembowel a rat is a real boner killer. Like, it's not,
Turn off.
I mean, she could have just said, oh, look over there, a disemboweled rat. I am no longer interested in having sex with you.
Yeah.
Instead, she's all like, and Larry's like, I just don't get you. Women, right? And then he waits for laughs.
He's an unlikable character.
Airline food. He really is. He's got an unlikable face. I don't like to say that.
He does. He has that hate face that I just don't like.
I look at it and it's just like, I don't like you.
Pass on your face, please. Pass.
You, sir, have a very unfortunate face.
And so then, what's the next thing that we see there? I guess Larry kind of is with Kirsty. He's like, oh, stop by and make friends with Julia. She's your mother now, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm. And so Kirsty decides, like, oh, well, I'll go stop by. And Frank also tells Julia, like, I need another, at least, just one more. And so she goes out and she gets this guy. And Kirsty sees them walk into the home together.
Yeah.
And then I guess she just waits outside, which I guess I understand. Again, like, you already dislike your stepmom and feel like she's walking all over your dad, and now you see her walking into the home with another man. Like, it's a complicated situation. Maybe you don't just want to walk in and be like, hey, what the hell's going on here? So she just sort of waits outside a little bit, and Julia takes this guy upstairs, and as they're going upstairs, the guy says, I get lonely sometimes.
Oh.
And it's like, up to this point, like, none of the guys that have been killed have I really felt much sympathy for, though I should. I mean, like, they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But this guy's
like, totally shot.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
It's lonely. Oh, have you thought of getting a dog? Just, I don't know. Don't follow strange women home. Go get a dog and take up a hobby.
And that guy gets hammered, right?
He does. Yeah, he gets hammered. And listen, as the hammer's coming at him, he's like, please, hammer, don't hurt him. And right after the hammer hits, Julia in hammer pants starts doing the hammer dance. She's like, can't touch this.
It's an odd beat in the movie, really, but I do like it.
It is. I liked it. It's my favorite part, honestly.
It's just part of the time. 1987. It was just part of the times. Much like smoking indoors, wearing hammer pants, and doing the hammer dance during murder. Also part of the times.
So, Julia hears the screams, and so she runs in.
Kirsty.
Oh, not Julia, Kirsty.
Okay.
Hears the screams in the home, so she runs in. Because Kirsty is much like most of the female characters in any of the movies we've done. She's a badass. She's not like, I'm going to hear. Yeah, she's not like, I'm going to hear somebody screaming and then be like, I don't know what to do. She's like, I'm going to go find out what's happening. And what she finds is that upstairs, Julia and her skinless uncle are murdering people.
Not what you expect to see, really.
Mm-hmm. Skinless uncle sounds like, because dad bands in the future aren't going to be like easy rock. They're going to be what dads listen to. So when metal dads start a dad band in their 40s, like, maybe Skinless Uncle will be a name.
I think that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And so they're not stoked to see old Kirsty.
You know what? And look, all right, I understand that Kirsty's had some problems with Julia, but it's like, oh, you stopped by to surprise me. Like, how nice.
And then, like, the dead guy like falls through the door and stuff, and like Frank grabs Kirsty and he's like, "Come to daddy."
Yeah, again, come on, guy. Like, get another line. Just, I don't know, like, I want your skin.
Now, I've read some
That's
reviews
creepy.
and stuff of this before that some people saw into this as, and especially too, like, there's sort of a reaction after he says that line and after Kirsty realizes it's Uncle Frank. She has this like very freaked out reaction. I've read some reviews and stuff where some people read into it that all of this is meaning to say that like maybe Frank molested her when she was a kid. Did you get that out of it? I don't really think I got that out of this, but it's a disgusting angle to think about.
I would believe it.
He
I would
seems like
also
a
believe-
bad person.
He does, and I would also believe it's possible he is her dad.
Also,
I mean,
completely
like, 'cause
possible.
we've seen him have sex with at least one of his brother's wives.
Yeah, you're right. That would be weird, yeah, if that was actually her dad.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But okay, so this is again cool because Kirsty, she's in this,
Murder room.
obviously murder room, and she grabs the puzzle box and she sees his reaction to her grabbing the puzzle box.
No, don't
And-
scrim it.
Yeah. And she's like, well, all right, obviously this is important, so I'm going to throw this out the window.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't back down from any of this. She's not worried. Like, she is worried for her life, but she's not just curling up in a ball.
Right.
Which I think I would probably do if I saw a skinless person.
If I saw my uncle sans skin, I would probably have a stronger reaction than she did.
Yeah.
I'd be like, fuck.
I mean, yeah, exactly like that. Like, what, fuck?
Like, fuck.
Where'd your skin go?
So she throws the box out the window, and then she runs down the stairs. She grabs the box out of the bushes on the way, and she's running down the street. And she like passes by some nuns, and then she like
Who were
passes
like,
out or something, right?
Yeah. She, I don't know, just shock, etc. Maybe she ran at like full speed for too long and just ran out of oxygen. I don't know, but she just passes out.
And she wakes up
and
in a hospital.
Yeah. And the doctor and the nurse are standing over, and they're like, I don't think she's gonna make it. Oh shit, she's waking up. Stop talking. But anyway, no, they're like asking her questions and things.
And they're like, we found you with
And-
this box.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know. Like, what is the point of giving her the box back? Like, maybe this will help. Yeah, just keep it with her belongings, and when you discharge her, give her her belongings.
Yeah. I don't really know. It's a strange doctor. It's a strange hospital. And
Maybe he looked at it and he was like, I can feel that this might cure her.
and so she sits down and she's kind of working that little boxy box there. And an interesting thing, the box starts to sort of activate and open itself up and all this jazz.
Yeah.
And whereas earlier, whenever Frank opened the box, there was like this blue sort of energy bolts sort of shot out of it. With Kirsty, there's pink lightning bolts. I think because she's a girl and Frank's a boy.
We know the Cenobites are sexist. The name of the only female Cenobite is Female Cenobite.
So pink bolts for the girls, blue bolts
Yeah.
for the boys.
Yeah.
And so then
Actually, no, now that I think about it, and this is interesting, naming her Female Cenobite could be just like lazy sexism, but it also could be calling out what she represents. I mean, because her throat's ripped away. Like, basically, she's voiceless. Even though she can talk, like, she's had her throat sort of ripped away. Maybe it is like a representation of the way men look at women as this monolithic structure that has nothing to say to us. Like, all women are just female woman.
wow, that's some cold-blooded shit.
I'll take my check now, Clive Barker. I don't know if you knew this, but he put a $25,000 reward on anybody who could figure out Female Cenobite.
And so then, like, she works the box of stuff, and we see the walls of the hospital kind of like open up and stuff, and she hears like a baby crying, and then she sees this lobster beast in the hallway.
Yeah, that thing is called the Engineer.
I've never seen him drive a train even once, though. I think that's bullshit.
Now,
I'd have loved if, like, right when it cut to him, if it did show him wearing like a cute little engineer hat and like some overalls,
and a red kerchief.
He like quickly dashes him away, and he's like, "Oh," and he takes him off, and he's like,
Actually, just he's wearing those things, and we see him from the back, and we hear, "Come on, Eileen." and
he's
like,
Dexy's
I don't like
Midnight
Dexy's
Runner.
Midnight Runner. What?
And so,
Actually, the reason he's called the Engineer is because he's so good at math.
oh wow,
Yeah. Doesn't look like it, but he's the guy to go to for math tutoring. So
he didn't even look like he had that many fingers to count on, though.
that's the thing.
No
That's why
toes that
everybody's
I could see.
amazed. Not one.
That's his motivation, though, is he needs to catch people and kill them so he can count on their toes.
Yeah. You can kind of hear him just if you turn it up and you listen on headphones. You can kind of hear him. He's like, "Sorry about this. Just need your fingers."
He's doing maths.
He's doing maths. As the British say.
As they say. And this lobster, sort of weird large prawn creature, sort of chases her down this hallway, and she runs back into the hospital. And it's cool too because you can still hear the beast like behind the wall. It's really creepy.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's that scene. If you watch the second movie, like the second movie is like everything beyond that wall. It's like that world.
Yeah.
So that scene actually just opens up the whole world of the Hellraiser series.
It does.
Even though it's just like a small sort of scene, it shows us that like, oh, there's another dimension. It exists like
Parallel to
within
reality.
dimensions. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so
She works the box,
it's-
and then the other Cinnabons show up, right?
yeah, they do. And
The Chatterer does his traditional greeting.
Yeah, which is creepy, but as you know, in his language, he's talking about love.
That's his love language. He's like, I'm going to
Yeah.
show up and immediately put my middle and ring fingers directly in your mouth.
Yeah, he's like, this is a greeting in our world. It means I respect you.
I learned
She's all
about
like,
different love languages reading Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And some people are gift givers. Some people are complimenters. Some
Yeah.
people are fish hookers.
That's true. Some people are fish hookers, and some people are fish hookies.
It's a give and take situation.
Yeah, that is a sub genre of the submissive culture is fish hookies.
And Pinhead is like, she's like, what's this box? And he's like, it is a means to summon us. And then he says, my favorite line, which he says, we are explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others. So fucking cool.
Okay, look, and it is, and absolutely everything about the way Pinhead is played is awesome.
Yeah,
But
it's fucking rad.
if there were a reboot and Werner Herzog said those lines,
Ooh.
even more menacing.
Ooh. I would back that.
Like, yeah, like it would be so, because like that's the sort of shit you hear in his documentaries. Like, it's like it presents us with this idea of these people who exist in a plane you can't even imagine, and what they do in that plane is seek out pain.
Yeah. The pain plane.
The pain plane. Yep.
And Pinhead's like, come with us, taste our pleasures. No tears,
Taste our
please. It is a
pleasures.
waste of good suffering. Like, there's so many sick lines that are delivered just in a row right there.
Waste of good suffering is a great line. I really like. The moment I heard that, I was like, yeah, no one else would say that except for a Cenobite. Like, it's so good.
And then she's like, oh, you know, my Uncle Frank escaped from you guys. I'll take you to him instead. And that's when Pinhead says something about like, if she lies, we'll tear your soul apart, which is badass.
Yeah. So she promises to take them to Frank.
Yeah.
And
I guess the Cenobites have a very strict, like, no leaving policy.
yeah. They're like, look.
He didn't check out.
He didn't check out properly. It fucks with our paperwork, okay?
We have a roll
we get
call.
audited. Suddenly it's like, oh, this guy, when did he check out? Or is he still in your rooms and you're letting him stay there for free? Then in the alternate dimension IRS, suddenly we're in jail.
And Julia and Frank are there being like, oh no, Kirsty's going to tell Larry and stuff. Then Larry just happens to come home. Bad timing, Larry.
I think Larry in general he has bad timing, bad judgment, bad character, probably bad breath, honestly. He looks like his breath stinks.
Yeah.
Not like that type of stench you can identify either. And it's not constant. It's just like when he says like a pee near you, you're like, oh, God damn it, Frank. Like, what is that?
Don't be close to me.
Frank, just listen. I'm going to get you some Tic Tacs. And
a medicated
Frank,
mouthwash.
Wait, is this Pinhead talking?
Yeah.
Have you thought of a medicated mouthwash? I mean, look, we want to experience all things, but your breath, ugh.
Not so much. I would not take his advice on oral care whatsoever. His teeth look really gross. That's a cool little makeup detail they put on Doug Bradley. Is like his teeth look fucking messed out. They look really gross.
Oh my God.
Ugh.
What if that's the, like, they make the final sequel is a Hellraiser that occurs in like a trailer in West Virginia, and they get there and they're like, we're beyond good and evil or whatever, and like everybody in the room is just methed out.
Oh, dude, and
like
how it comes together is like fucking Jim Boy is like, hey, y'all ready to raise some hell or what?
I love this. Oh my God, that's like, it's like a weird like combo of like the, what is that, Tucker and Dale versus the Evil?
Oh yeah.
And Hellraiser, yeah.
And he has like, he keeps the meth in like the puzzle box, and he's like, you got to unlock it a certain way to get it open. I hide my drugs in here because of that.
He keeps his meth in a box that opens up a dimension that brings out people looking to experience the most exquisite pains.
Mostly just meth, though.
Yeah, mostly just meth. Like, whenever they come out there, like, you think we could get some meth? And he's like, if you got money. And they're like, we have no money. And he's like, well, you ain't getting no meth. And they're like, please. Like the chatterer comes over and starts chattering at him like, I love you.
I think this is it's really the type of reworking the likes of which has only really been seen in something like maybe The Wiz.
Yes, maybe The Wiz. You know what? That's what we'll call it. We'll say Tucker and Dale versus Evil meets Hellraiser.
Yeah.
It's basically The Wiz.
It's basically The Wiz. Raise hell. And so,
yeah, raise hell.
Larry comes home, and then let's see, what's the sequence that happens right there?
She comes down. Julia comes down, and she's trying to stop him from going up
to Frank.
Yeah, but
again, maybe trying to spare him.
Yeah, but she doesn't seem to be putting a lot of effort into it also. Like, I think maybe she's worked through whatever little bit of guilt she might have felt. So yeah, now we get the confrontation between Larry and, I mean, he obviously couldn't tell it's Frank immediately. He's not like, that's my brother, I'd know him even without skin. But yeah, so they have their confrontation, which turns out about as well for Larry as you could imagine.
Yeah, he doesn't stand much of a chance.
Yeah, so Frank takes Larry's skin.
Kirsty comes back to the house, and she's like, oh, here's Julia, and here's my dad, but he's kind of got blood all over his hairline and stuff, but I guess it's probably him-ish.
And he's not acting like himself, but I mean, again, like, I think they play this really well, because she is a little suspicious, because she's like, why is my dad acting differently? But it's obvious that that's what she's thinking, is why is my dad? She's not thinking, why is someone in my dad's skin?
Yeah,
like,
that's not something you typically go to.
Yeah, so, like, obviously, she thinks he's acting weird, but she doesn't think, like, oh, well, this is that meat beast I saw earlier.
And so she goes upstairs, and she sees, like, she's like, Frank is upstairs, I don't believe it, and yada yada, and she wants to go up there to see him. But she goes up there and sees, like, the smoking corpse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a smoking corpse because I guess the room is cold, and he was so recently de-skinned that, like, the heat from his muscles is making steam rise? I don't know.
It's pretty metal.
Yeah, no, obviously. Listen, I'm assuming that when I'm de-skinned, which is how when I die, and really, honestly, I want to be metal as fuck. Like, right as I'm dying, just go ahead and de-skin me.
Yes.
and then get a good film of the smoke rising off, and then take a couple of pieces of my skull and wear them around your neck as a necklace.
Sure. Oh, dude, black metal as fuck.
Yeah.
And then my notes here are really messy. I don't really understand what I was writing.
Okay, so Kirsty shows up. There's some weirdness going on. Kirsty catches on that something is happening.
Yeah.
She has the puzzle box. She runs from them and hides in a room where she finds a corpse that is covered in maggots.
Old maggot corpse.
And that's we've seen a lot of maggots just in the first 3 movies that we've covered.
And at some point
Lots
here,
of maggots.
doesn't Julia like grabs Kirsty and is holding her, and like Frank as Larry is like gonna stab Kirsty, but then he ends up stabbing Julia instead. But he doesn't really seem to really care that much. He's like, nothing personal, and just like fucking drains Julia and kills her.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I think Frank he's dishonorable. Like,
it's not a nice man.
He might not be good.
Might not be a good guy.
Yeah, but she's obviously she doesn't take it too bad. that Julia, like, she seems, I don't know, she doesn't seem to be too overly surprised by it.
Yeah, she's like, well, you are kind of a shitty person. Let's be real.
Yeah.
There's a little cat and mouse between Kirsty and Frank, and then basically Kirsty kind of lures him into this room where she summoned the Cenobites, and they show up, and there's like a bunch of chained hooks that fly through the air and hook Larry Frank up, right?
Yeah, and they get the fish hooks in the side of his face, and his face is like stretched out and distorted, and it like shows his face, and he has this like demented sort of smile. He can't fully smile because his face is being pulled by wires and fish hooks, but he just goes, Jesus wept, and then just starts laughing.
And then gets torn apart.
Yeah, and then it gets torn apart. Now, I've thought about this a lot. Like, why quote that verse?
Yeah.
So
that's an iconic part of the movie.
Yeah. Here's what I think. All of this, every bit of it, from his resurrection, from his escape, his resurrection, his his dealings with Julia, the killings, etc. All of this to him the goal isn't necessarily to fully escape the Cenobites. His goal is to just continue his sadomasochistic game.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. There's not really a happily ever after game he's thinking of.
Yeah, he doesn't foresee like everything will turn out great. What he sees is I can cause misery and pain in other people if I escape these Cenobites.
Yeah.
And I will do it for as long as I can until they catch me and rip me apart again.
Yeah.
And I love it. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Such a fucked up character.
Yeah. Fucking Frank.
And then the Cenobites aren't really done, though. The Cenobites still want Kirsty for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure about that.
I feel like when I look at Pinhead, I think that's a man of his word.
Yeah.
You know, this seemed untrue to the character. But they turn on her like, we're going to get you. And they decide to do it one at a time. Like it's a kung fu movie.
They don't really gang up on her like.
So each one of them makes like a slow, steady step toward her while saying like evil things or making weird faces.
Talking smack.
Yeah, and she beats each one of them.
She comes across Julia's corpse on a bed. Dude, that scene is like really unsettling. She walks into this room because she's trying to find the box, and so she walks into this room and she sees Julia's corpse on a bed. It looks like the skin has been ripped off of her face or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
she's got all these chains around her on the bed, but her hands are holding the box. It almost looks like that Francis Bacon painting. It's just called like Head Number 5 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really fucking cool. And so Kirsty grabs the box and works on it and stuff. And what happens there?
Yeah.
Steve shows up.
Yeah, Steve shows up. Thank God.
She works the box and it like shoots like really fucking shitty looking lasers out at the Cenobites and makes them blow up.
Yeah, and listen, let's just be clear. That was obviously a tie-in with Cinnabon. They were like, hey, like, what if the lasers turn the Cenobites into cinnamon rolls? And they shot that. And then they were like, this doesn't really work. So they went back and they shot, like, the deaths. So she takes out, like, in order, she takes out female Cenobite, then the Chatterer, then... is it female Cenobite, Pinhead, then Chatterer, and then Butterball, who just comes in, licks his lips, and then the ceiling falls on him?
Yeah, his death is just like a physical death. Like, the other one's got, like, neutralized or...
Yeah.
You know...
I don't know.
Vanquished, but, like, he just sort of has, like, a doorway fall on him.
Yeah, and so she and Steve are gonna escape through the front door, but the front door is now like a hallway into that alternate dimension, and here comes the engineer like, I want your fingers, and he gets the puzzle box. So does he? Or does he like knocks the puzzle box out of her hand?
Yeah.
And like they're like fighting. And she gets the puzzle box, and Steve tries to take it from her.
Steve, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, man.
Yeah, seriously, dude. We just saw her take out 4 Cenobites, and you're going to be like, oh, I got this. Don't worry. Listen, okay. Well, actually, it's like guys are better at puzzle boxes, so...
He was about to do some mansplaining.
He was going to mansplain to her how the puzzle box worked. and it would have been really interesting, too, because the engineer would have been like, yeah, so you should listen to him because, like, we're both men. And then, like, they'd gang up on her and be like, you don't really play video games.
I think it'd be really great if the engineer got really mad because they assumed his gender.
Oh, shit. That would be awesome. Because, listen, engineers can be women, too.
Kirsty and Steve leave and... Okay, I guess they just find like some old abandoned bum fire or something like this.
Yeah, a lot of abandoned bum fires. They were like, there'll be one nearby.
And she throws the box in the fire, and then that old cricket-eating bum shows up. And it turns out, psych, he's actually a winged bone demon. What the fuck?
Oh my god.
That's one of the most like random turns of about any movie I've ever seen. He's like this damn prehistoric dragon looking bone winged thing that grabs the box and flies off.
Okay.
It doesn't even match the aesthetic of the rest of the movie.
I do have a number of questions about that, but first, I seriously want to get into a redneck argument, and I want to call somebody a cricket-eating bum. and then, as it escalates, I'll call him a winged bone demon.
Well, dude, those are all things that are going to be like deep cut fan service references in Raising Hell, our meth box movie.
Hellraiser, raising hell. Yeah.
Get out of here, you fucking
bum. Give me my meth.
I got this hookup with my buddy Winged Demon. He gets the meanest shit from Tijuana, man. Shit'll fuck you up.
He's got the worst wing tattoos on his back that he got from a buddy who stole a tattoo gun. He didn't even wait for his buddy to like practice it. He was just like, "All right, you got it. Put wings on my back."
I started this nickname because my name is actually Wayne Damon, and I just kind of thought Wayne Damon kindly sounded sort of like Wayne Damon. So fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
Tattoos.
And also, I sell meth, so I have a captive audience of people that have to pretend my tattoos are cool.
I don't understand the winged demon thing whatsoever. Because like I said, it's like it doesn't match anything in the movie at all.
I have a few questions that I think can help us get at it. I don't necessarily have the answers. Okay, is the hobo slash winged demon at the end, is he the merchant that sells the puzzle box?
The Chinaman. Yeah, because we see him at the very end of the movie, and he's selling the box to somebody else, and he's like, "What's your pleasure?"
Yeah.
Or is he actually like some sort of a servant?
Yeah, or is he is the winged demon a Cenobite? Because they don't have any particular look. I mean, they all seem to...
I like to think, though, that considering they all look kind of bondagey, I like to think that, like, maybe whenever the special effects model for the winged demon showed up to set, I like to think that Clive Barker was like, I don't know, couldn't we at least put, like, a gag ball in its mouth or something? And then they're like, no, it doesn't make, like, they don't make gag balls big enough to fit winged demons. That wouldn't exist. They'd have to fabricate that just for a winged demon. And it's not really gagging on anything. It's just bones.
They ended up compromising, and if you were able to zoom in close enough, you'd see that the winged demon has a butt plug in. And also you hear it as it flies away. It says, "I got the box for you, mistress."
Oh.
So, yeah, it's S&M as fuck. So anyway, okay, so I think you're right. What I'm thinking now, this is a joke somewhat, but the aesthetic of the Cenobites certainly is influential in the aesthetic of the way that the characters in the Matrix dress when they're in the Matrix.
Right. Lots of black leather.
The Matrix also calls into question the very ideas of reality, good, evil, etc. And so definitely, I think that Hellraiser inspires the Matrix.
It's a prequel.
But is it possible? This is kind of a joke, maybe. Is it possible that the winged demon at the end, that's the thing, or that is one of the type of creatures that actually rules this alternate dimension, and the Cenobites are like their Green Lantern Corps or their Men in Black? Like they're the police. They go catch people that escaped.
Yeah. Huh. In this universe of bone demon things.
Yeah, so these are just servants. I mean, they get their pleasures, etc.
You know what,
but
though?
They're just servants.
Now that you point that out, as we see in like Hellraiser 2, where like you said, we see more of the universe behind the walls, so to speak. Like when you see Leviathan, it definitely doesn't have the bondagey look of the Cenobites. Mm-hmm. It's never really said that the Cenobites are the rulers of that world, now that you mention it.
And you know what you don't find out? Probably a cut scene in the second one is that the Leviathan is actually a dude in a dragon costume. That's his S&M thing. Like, it's a really uncomfortable costume.
It's kind of a niche fetish.
He hates dragons. Like, he's like super submissive, and female Cenobite told him to put on that dragon costume and fucking stay in it, and he was like, "Yes, mistress." And then
so where the movie ends, there's in that foreign land, and we see the merchant guy, and he's pawning the box off on somebody else. So we just kind of get the idea that and the story goes on.
yeah, so people are constantly being drawn into this game of just it's a game. I mean, this is a Lovecraftian world where, you know, higher beings from alternate dimensions play games with humans, like, because humans to them are just inferior beings. They're like ants to us.
Hit me with some of your likes and dislikes about this movie. What's some of the things you liked about this movie?
Okay, so I like how this goes so far outside of genre.
Yeah.
This is not a slasher film. Mm-mm. This is not a monster movie. This fits more in line maybe with Cronenberg, maybe with some of John Carpenter's stuff, especially his weirder stuff like Prince of Darkness and things like that just question the very nature of reality. In the Mouth of Madness, which, spoiler alert, we cover in the future.
Future.
Yeah. So I like and you know, it's the ability to use the principles of horror and the principles of the genre, and to still like be creative and to expand it out into new levels of like terror and horror and fear. And this happened a lot in the late 90s and late 80s and early 90s. Is that, and they're not the movies, I guess, that people typically think of as like the great horror movies, but there were a lot of creative writers and directors who were looking for new ways to scare people instead of just relying on the old-fashioned stuff. So I really like that about this.
Yeah, definitely so.
Dislike, at points it seems like it's shot like a soap opera.
I can totally see that, yeah.
I mean, that's, again, this is a novelist turned screenwriter turned director suddenly. So, you know, he may have some issues at first. The flashback scenes especially are too soft focus and too soap opera to me.
I can totally see that.
Though, I mean, if we do imagine that that's how Julia remembers it, then maybe, you know, we can give some credence to that. But it just seems a little lame. How about you? What do you like about this movie? What do you dislike?
You know, I would say as far as like the likes goes, I like the type of horror this is, because it's like you said, it does not really rely on any sort of traditional tropes of jump scares or anything like that. I don't know. A lot of this movie takes place in broad daylight too. Like, there's not like,
I love that.
Yeah, it's not like all at night and smoke and darkness and filtered, and everything's not, you know, fucking blue-green like every horror movie is now.
Yes.
That teal color that everything is in horror movies now. I like that a lot. I really like the aesthetic. The costume work and stuff of the Cenobites is fucking incredible. I mean, the special effects, makeup, and costumes are awesome and so detailed. And I kind of feel like every time that I watch these flicks and, like, you know, really get a look at the Cenobites, it's like I notice different things about their costumes and stuff. I really, really like the look of it. I think it's really cool. I like, too, that this movie, especially when you consider, again, 1987 when this came out, dealing with sex in horror movies is totally nothing new. I mean, there's always been an element of, you know, girl in a shower getting murdered, like going back to Psycho, or all of the classic slasher flicks. You know, it's kids having sex and getting murdered.
The most vulnerable moments in your life are during sex and while you're on the toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an easy way to scare people.
But this movie brings the sexual element in a completely different way, with its weird sadomasochist, I won't even say undertones, blatant overtones that are presented throughout the movie. It's just a really interesting element that nobody else would even touch with a 10-foot pole back then, which I think is really interesting. And even today is not something that you see in flicks. So I like that about it a lot, too. I like Kirsty.
Yeah.
I like that it's a small cast and a small number of locations. Generally, it seems like a lot of my favorite horror flicks are ones that just have, a cast of 4 or 5 people and 2 or 3 locations. Those tend to be ones that I like a lot.
Yeah, I would agree on that for sure, because it provides this sort of closeness, claustrophobia that already raises the tension.
As far as dislikes goes, Larry's face is a strong dislike. Some of the dubbing and acting is definitely very questionable. Again, like we said, not only the fact that they chose to dub Frank, but the guy that they got to dub his voice, who has that Frank voice that delivers everything in a very melodramatic sort of way, is really odd. In a way, I like how surreal that is, but it doesn't really fit in with everything else in the movie, Like, if this was in an Italian horror flick, I'd go right along with it and wouldn't even question it.
Yeah.
But I think that takes me out of it a little bit. I'm trying to think of any other dislikes.
Okay. I'm going to say my dislike and your dislike may have given me a little different understanding here. The surreal quality of his voice being dubbed, he only speaks with that dubbed voice in her flashbacks that are also soft-filtered and seem soap opera-y.
Yeah.
So, maybe we're overlooking a creative stroke there where it was when we show the flashbacks, let's only show it through Claire's, fantasy of what was happening.
Oh, right. Where maybe he had the soap opera voice and stuff, too.
Yeah, and maybe he's been away from her so long she doesn't even remember what his voice sounds like. I mean, that's a sad truth of when people go away. You stop remembering those things about them.
What would you give this flick on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I love this movie, and I really like the creativity and the new branches of horror that it opens up. I'm going to go ahead and say it's an 8.5.
I think that's exactly where I would put it. I think it's an 8.5 out of 10. It's one that's fun for me to watch.
Yeah, anytime.
Pretty much any old time. And it's really fun to watch this movie with people for the first time. If somebody hasn't seen this movie, it's always a real joy to watch it with them and just watch their reactions to stuff, being like, what the fuck are you showing me? There's some flicks like that I really love just to show people.
Yeah. Because the thing you would think, and I think most people would associate with Hellraiser, Pinhead. The Cenobites and Pinhead, they're not they're a driving force in the movie, but they're neither the good or the evil. The evil is Julia and Frank. The good is Kirsty, and Larry's stupid face is somewhere in between. But I think anybody who sees this for the first time is probably going to be surprised by how little the Cenobites are in the movie and how little they seem to how less intimidating they are by the end, because Kirsty just handles them.
It's true. That was a surprise to me the first time that I saw these two, because I knew going into watching Elm Street the first time, Freddy Krueger's the bad guy, and then you watch it and it's like, yep, he kills people, and then you watch
not a good dude.
Yeah, you watch Halloween, you're like, Michael Myers is a bad guy, and then he kills people. But it's like going into Hellraiser, I had seen all through my childhood and stuff. I'd seen the sweet ass Hellraiser VHS box and seen Pinhead's face in advertisements in comic books and magazines and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, in this movie, Pinhead's the bad guy. But then you start watching, you're like, okay, it's not just Pinhead. There's 3 other ones too, and then you're like, and they actually don't kill anybody in the movie.
No.
Well, I guess they kill Julia.
I mean, there's intimidation, but okay. So we have to take Clive Barker is he's a gay male who is interested in S&M. Mm-hmm. He has obviously been able to push himself to different levels of experience that have opened up doors of creativity to him that probably wouldn't have been open any other way. Mm-hmm. The Cenobites, they don't come for Frank because they're like, let's pick a random human like Satan does in the Bible. Right. Like, they're not like, let's pick a random human.
You have to invite them in your life.
He invites them to come and rip apart his soul.
Yeah.
Like, what? They haven't done anything wrong. They've entered into a contract with a willing person.
And that's so different when you compare him to a Freddy Krueger or a Jason or a Michael Myers.
Yeah, who are doing wrong things.
Yeah.
Even if there is a weird morality to it, they're doing wrong things.
Yeah. Very cool movie. I really, really like it. Do you like the sequels?
Yeah. I like how weird they get, and I think, is it the 3rd or 4th one where it opens up with the person creating the puzzle box?
Yeah, that's 4, which is Bloodlines, I think it's called. That one has some cool stuff in it.
I like that opening a lot.
And that movie sort of has a bunch of flashbacks to the past where you see how the box, the lament configuration was put together and stuff. It also has all these dumb flash forwards to the future, which are fucking stupid, but
yeah,
the flashback parts in that are really cool. I like Hellraiser 2, Hellbound a lot. It very much has the same feel. It really feels like kind of Kill Bill 1 and 2, where it's just picking right up where this left off.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot. 3 has some corny shit. Anything past 4 is not even worth watching. They're fucking horrible.
Now that I think about it, I remember in 3 when they travel to the forest moon of Endor, and it's like, who are these teddy bears?
Exactly, man. They go to the teddy bear planet, and they sing and they do a little dance.
And at the end, you see the Cenobites' heads on spikes, and they're playing them like drums, and it's like, we're eating humans.
Cute,
and everyone's having a great time.
The other, like I said, the later ones, I found out too, a bunch of the later Hellraisers were just like, basically just spec script like monster movies, and then some piece of shit was like, well, let's just make the monster the Pinhead, and it's a Hellraiser movie now.
That happens a lot, or happened a lot with low budget horror movies for a while.
Yeah. Pretty fucking lame.
I think now we're in just a renaissance of horror movies. You can pick 1 out of 3 random indie horror movies that have come out in the past 5 years is gonna be one of the better movies you're gonna see in a year.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so many great horror movies coming out that have such a good perspective and such an artistic ideal, that to think that Pinhead also started that way. It also started in a moment that could have been a big renaissance for horror movies. It could have been like, let's get past the slasher and really start frightening people. It could have been that way. And we see that here, like there's the beginning of that, but it just doesn't go that way. And now it is going that way, and it's great. It's so awesome that people are able to take these tiny budgets and just make awesome horror movies. Which,
of course, there's all this talk now of a Hellraiser reboot that I guess they're fucking working on, of course, which is much like we said about the Pumpkinhead remake, that they're also talking about likely to be a pile of garbage.
Yeah. So we've got Freddy versus Jason, which everybody was calling for. It was like, I want to see Pacino, and I want to see Robert De Niro on screen, and we got Heat. And then it was like, well, what's next? Freddy versus Jason. And then can't top that. Boom. The Ring versus The Grudge.
Oh my God. Now, Batman v Superman.
Batman v Superman.
Ugh.
But now, I mean, I'm just saying, we got Hellraiser, we got Joanna Man, like
maybe they do a Hellraiser versus
Man.
Pumpkinhead.
I would think that would be interesting because Pumpkinhead is a demon of vengeance. And he gets pleasure out of causing pain. Like, he really likes hurting people, and so do they. So maybe they would end up joining forces. Like, didn't Jason and Freddy join forces in Freddy versus Jason?
You know what it might end up being, what it really might end up becoming too, though, is basically Itchy the Killer, because you have one thing that loves receiving pain and you have another thing that loves dishing out pain.
Yeah.
Because that's all that Itchy is about.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it just ends up being exactly like that. All goes back to Itchy.
Or maybe we just turn it into a porn parody.
Yeah.
Hellraiser and Pumpkinhead porn parody? I don't know what you call it. Like, Hellrection and Pussyhead? I don't know.
I see the female Cenobite with her vivisected throat and somebody being like, you ever get freaky with that thing?
Everybody just starts vomiting. Yeah. And he's like, that's the reaction I wanted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is going to dark places.
I'm going to go ahead and blame Clive Barker for that.
Yeah.
Because this is a dark fucking movie. Anyway, next week, though, we're going to move to a much lighter, like, just fun sort of flick.
Just a fun-loving movie.
Fun-loving movie, cute lead actress. You're going to fall in love with her immediately. The movie's called Audition, and it's by Takashi Miike, I believe it's pronounced. Not positive on that.
And it is a lovely vision of romance. It's like walking on a cloud.
Yeah, it's like walking on a cloud, and you know it's like it's gonna be the romantic comedy that your significant other is gonna be watching with you, and you're gonna turn to each other and you're gonna be like, you know, I really love you.
Yeah, it's just like that. That episode, which takes place in the past, sometime I think in early December or so of 2016 is when we recorded it, unless it's also riddled with audio woes. I'll have to go back and mix it, but I think that one actually is okay. So I think this is next episode should be the first one that you guys get since our debut episode to have all original audio.
Listen, and I keep getting the emails from you guys over and over, and they're like, please, like, you know, just put them out. We don't care if the audio is bad. Like, your voices soothe us. Could I send you some money? Like, do you want to lead a religion? I get those emails.
All the time.
Yes to all of them, yes.
Well, you know, the really interesting thing that I thought, and this really intrigued me, is like after we put up the Phenomena episode, our very first debut episode that we put up, within about 5 minutes of you making it live on iTunes and SoundCloud, I got an email from somebody saying, I love Future Ben and Steve so much. Put them on the show more. And I was like, who the fuck are Future Ben and Steve?
Huh. I wonder, hey, do we even know them? Like, because we call ourselves Future Ben and Steve.
But we're present day.
What if Future Ben and Steve, I'm going to go ahead and guess, I'm missing an arm and you have a cybernetic eye by now.
Yes.
And we're at platform 9 3/4 and it's bombed out.
No.
That is the ending to the last Harry Potter book that you wanted, correct?
Yeah, that's the Age of Apocalypse version.
Yeah, where it just flashes forward and like they're all like mangled from a war and like that would have been great.
And you accidentally killed Professor X.
Yeah, it wasn't okay. Look, the dude, I was trying to save him. All right, and he tried to save me. It's
kind of cute.
Noble.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Well, where can these fine people find us on them interwebs so they can send us questions, comments, nudes, and money?
We'll take nudes and money at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com. questions, we'll also take them there. And you can also find us on Twitter at DeadLovelyPod. We're also on Instagram.
Oh, where can they find
Same
you on
name.
those medias?
On Twitter, Instagram, I am at Steven Spratling. That's Steven with a V, the correct way to spell it.
Oh, and you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars. And if you'd like to check out my YouTube channel where you can find some guitar learning vidges, you can find that on youtube.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Thank you guys. I should have said that in the Frank voice. Ben Eller Guitars. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Stay tuned next week for another good old episode. We have been Dead and Lovely, and you guys have been rich and creamy. Bye now.